Hey there, this is Andrew. I'm bringing you another Keyforge house set review. We're going to be going over Mass Mutation Saurian in this video, and I have joining me Julian. Hey, Julian.
Hello.
Julian, aka Shaka. And actually, this just popped in my head, but I'm gonna say it. I think uh, when I hear other people talking about you playing your games, which I hear other people talking about you playing your games often because of various places that you pop up, they people struggle with how to say it. So do you want to set the record straight here?
Sure. Julian, very common. It's not a very common name. It's an uncommon name, but I like it a lot. And yeah, pronounced Julian in Spanish, Julian, um, French
wait,
Julien.
wait. I was really unclear. I didn't mean Julian. I meant Shaka.
No, I'm trying to be funny. Yeah, I
Oh,
knew what you meant.
okay, okay. You. It's your English heritage popping out there. The dry humor.
uh, yeah, I guess so. Um, so actually, yeah, Julian is more of a name in the UK, I believe, than in the States.
Huh.
But yeah, I'm running into more Julians these days. Anyway, Shaka, yeah, that's one of my middle names, and yeah, that's how I was taught to pronounce it. And you can also pronounce that name as Siaka. Um, it, I guess, it just depends on what language you're speaking or uh, where you're from. But if you say it like really, like the Irish name, like Siobhan,
Uh huh. Uh huh.
right? So maybe something like that.
Yeah, and I'm always a fan of saying people's names the way their mother would, if I can help it. Um, and I actually recently found out talking to somebody else that I'd been calling them by a nickname for probably over a year, and that they don't go by that nickname, and I was completely mortified. So it's always worth it to try to make sure we're doing I mean, it's good to be forgiving too, but um, always try to do the names right. Cool. Okay. So Julian, thanks for being here, and maybe you've been here before, so you don't need to give like a full introduction. But I wanted to give you a chance to give an update on, especially like what KeyForge post COVID has been like for you, and yeah, other stuff you've been up to.
Sure. Keyforge has been pretty fun during the lockdown. It's been a great way to connect with people, even though we can't really meet in person. Uh, of course, we miss the in-person events, but the online events are pretty fun. And I've been able to participate in a lot of competitive events since the lockdown because much of that stuff moved online. And it's been pretty fun. So I've been involved with that. The Ancient Bear Republic team has gotten a lot more active, and we've been doing some pretty great things, like running our league, which is where we have a bunch of team captains and they draft people to play many different formats. It's a lot of fun. You get to use many
Yeah.
different decks and meet new people. And we've had pretty good representation in a lot of the competitive events online.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, the ABR League has just been absolutely fun, and yeah, the one of the funnest things for me is how we keep changing up the formats and keeping it fresh that way. Although I will say, I think Coat has been doing a pretty good job in that regard too, and so it's been nice seeing various formats show up over online play, and then yeah, and then you are for the second time in the KF League as well. So I know you have your first match coming up later this week. So good luck with that.
Thank you.
Um, Okay, cool. So then let's go ahead and start talking about Saurian. And I'll start with the question: if you sit down at well, it's kind of funny because we haven't gotten to do in-person sealed events with mass mutation, but you know use your imagination. You sit down at a sealed mass mutation event. Your opponent, you see they have Saurian in their deck. You don't know what cards they have, but you know that they have Saurian. What what kinds of capabilities are you going to expect out of the deck?
It can vary. W- Usually, what you see with Saurian cards is some kind of exalting, but those are generally a penalty for doing something.
Hmm.
So I would imagine that okay, Octavia and Thero Centurion can do some capturing. Citizen Tricks can do some stealing. So I imagine to see pretty good amber control, big bodies, and good spot removal.
Hmm.
So the Dino mutants can come into play with an Exalt and deal 3 damage.
Yeah.
So generally, I think like strong board presence and maybe some artifacts that uh, affect your amber in some way.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I definitely expect board control in some form or another. Yeah, whether it's in three damage can deal with a lot of problems. Um,
Yep.
uh, but also yeah, some big bodies, um, and then some capture, uh, some amber movement. I actually feel like the amber movement in mass mutation is stronger than it was in Worlds Collide because you have not only Chant, but you have oh man, what's his well
Console
we'll into him.
Primus.
Yeah, exactly. Consul Primus moving stuff and as well as like Humble and Patronage. So you have kind of like a strong amber manipulation game. Um
Hmm.
and then and I think well I guess there were some in Worlds Collide, but there are more effects in mass mutation that would cause your opponent's creatures to be exalted as well, which can kind of be a way to generate amber. And then I kind of feel like again just overall compared to Worlds Collide, uh, Worlds Collide had a lot of ready and use stuff that just isn't here. So they took kind of a hit in that regard, and there's less taunt. Um,
Hmm.
and then I put a note in here that I generally miss Philophosaurus. Uh, but
Yeah, great card.
Yeah, but I will say I recently ended up with a deck with a couple of different monuments that worked really well together and helped me appreciate the monument game a little more than I had before. So anyway, yeah, definitely a different flavor overall than still definitely same Saurians, but stronger in some areas and weaker than others than Worlds Collide.
Yeah, I would say their scope has reduced a bit.
Hmm.
Um, in Worlds Collide, it seemed like Saurians were they just had it all. Like the creatures had high power,
Yeah,
they had good effects, ranging from warding to efficiency, uh, to amber control, amber generation. Like the cards just did like everything that's good in Keyforge. It's like, oh, but there's this sort of exalt drawback. Except there are a
right,
lot of ways to have that not actually be a drawback, whether you
right,
can spend the amber or move it to your pool, or it goes to the common supply rather than back to your opponent, or you could ward the creatures. So it was just very strong. In this set, I think the effects have centered. There still is a lot of exalting, but I feel like for the actions, exalting can be a way for you to exalt like enemy creatures
yeah.
and get more amber, or it has to do with some kind of amber control. And then from time to time you see like other good effects with like spot removal.
Uh-huh.
It seems more limited to the scope of what Saurians can do is more limited, I think, in this set. And to me, it kind of gives it more of a cohesive identity than it had before.
yeah, that makes sense, and they're probably to some extent getting the space shoved a little bit by having Sanctum back in. So it that I think it's good. And yeah, they were probably a little too much in Worlds Collide. So probably a lot more fair here. And I feel like a similar thing happened to the Star Alliance. Okay, so let's say then flipping seats here, you are opening a deck to use at a sealed event. You see it has Saurian on it. What is the next house you'd like to see on your deck?
I would say for sealed, I would want to see Sanctum.
Hmm.
I think there's some chance for some really interesting synergies with Captured Amber
Yeah,
in Sanctum. Um, because if you have Saurian, let's say you have Perfectus Ludo in your deck, that makes your Lieutenant Gorvenal a lot more interesting. Or any of those capture icons that are coming with the general Salvadors or whatever, um, suddenly are doing better things because you can delete the Amber with Ludo, you can spend it with Brachus, you can have Curiosaurus going on, or things like that. Like Spoils of Battle is suddenly a lot more alive if you have a
yeah,
lot of captured Amber on your creatures.
yes,
And Saurian also has that board presence. So if you have Saurian and Sanctum, Sanctum provides the taunt, some protection for some critical creatures. I think you could have a very nasty board state. And yeah, like Axiom of Grisk, like if Sanctum
yeah,
creatures have Amber on them, like they're not getting destroyed by that. So Ancient Power works well. I just think
yeah,
there are a lot of great synergies.
yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. The only and that's Signum is what I put too. So I 100% agree. I think the danger there is you're going to be weak to board wipes. If your opponent can consistently wipe the board, uh, you're going to be sad. But in sealed, you're less likely to have that problem. Um, so yep, for sure, they are like a hand and a glove there. Okay, so what is your favorite in-house combo?
So one combo in one of my favorite MM decks that has Saurian is Amphora Captura and
Hmm.
Chant of Hubris.
Hmm.
So you capture and then you move the amber to their creature. So instead of having to engineer like the right situation to
Right,
get an amber on your creature and then move it, like with the Amphora, you just turn the pip that's on it into a capture and then immediately move it into their creature. So in effect, you're getting like those Mars capture onto your own creature kind of
right.
effects out of hand, which I think is pretty cool. I also like Chant of Hubris with Citizen Tricks because
Uh
you
huh.
get the steal and then you move and then you get
Ugh.
an amber for playing it and then you move the amber to the other creature.
Yeah.
So
Feels so bad.
that's yeah, it's like you didn't get any downsides like play steal one, ambers on the other creature that's two, you got one from playing the card that's three. It's pretty nice in multiples.
Right. Yeah. For me, I put Curious RS and City State Interest, and I know that some people really hate Curia, but um, I I love especially like rare artifacts like that drastically change the rules of the game, and
Hmm.
once you have a Curiosaurus on the board, the question is just like, okay, well, how do I maximize the value of this? And City State Interest just turns it into such a powerhouse for it especially if you have board control, which you probably do. It effectively turns into like steal all your opponent's amber, but slowly.
Yeah, it's it's pretty powerful. Um, that reminds me of other combos with City State Interest, but they were in Worlds Collide too.
Uh huh.
like City State Interest and Axiom of Grisk is just
Yep.
nasty. Like you took all their amber and then destroyed all their creatures,
Yep.
and
Or
like
ancient
possibly
power.
even
Yeah.
warded one of yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ancient Power also. Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, City State Interest is real good.
Yeah. Okay, what about there's only one set to pick from, but if you could have any legacy card show up in a mass mutation Sarian deck, what would you want?
This is another thing that comes into like Saurians did everything
Right.
in the previous set because they had three key cheats,
Yeah.
um, which I don't even think any other house in any set had three in
Yeah.
one set, like even Untamed.
Yeah, well,
Maybe Shadows, like Night
uh
Forge and Key of Darkness, and was there a third one?
no, they only
No.
ever had two,
Yeah.
and yeah, when you think about the fact that Untamed only has three over four sets, yeah,
Hmm.
it's pretty silly.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like let's just keep dumping them in Saurian. I think the Colosseum would have been really interesting in Brobnar, for
Yeah.
example. But anyway, so I would want to bring back Imperial Forge.
Yeah.
I think, especially with Sanctum, you could do some nice things with that card. So I would love to see that as a legacy. I actually think you have more Exalted Amber. I haven't tested this or anything. My gut tells me there's more Exalted Amber on
Uh-huh.
in Mass Mutation than in Worlds Collide.
Yeah, and definitely more amber on sitting on creatures overall, right?
Yep.
Yeah, especially if
Yep.
like if you said if you have Sanctum. Yeah, Imperial Forge is definitely a card that becomes better if you bring it forward. Um,
Hmm.
so and yeah, there were other ones too. Like there are so many. There were just so many good cards from Worlds Collide. Sorry, and that were easy. I ended up going with um I ended up going with Phalanx Strike, which is a little weird because I like they don't they don't totally need it. Um, but I love playing like Worlds Collide decks with two or three Phalanx Strikes because you just have so much constant board control, and even though the plinks from yeah from like the Saurus creatures are good, um, the ability to just call down fire from the sky twice in a row with Phalanx Strike is something I miss. So that was my pick there. Um, okay, and then last question before we get into the cards. If you could bring over any Maverick in Mass Mutation to Saurian, what would you pick?
I think something that synergizes with Captured Amber. So I'd say maybe uh, Gizelhart Standard. Give
Hmm.
everyone some armor, beef them up.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, that enhances your board control as well as protecting that amber for sure.
Hmm.
Um, so and I picked based on I also picked a Sanctum card, which is just goes to show you how really synergistic they are. I picked Lady Lorena, and my reasoning is like you said, Sanctum can really fill that taunt void, um,
Hmm.
and being able to. But even so, you still have to like plop either have the taunt already there and drop the Saurian creature that you want to protect, or have it survive a turn so you can drop the taunt. And being able to like play like a Consul Primus or a Faust, and then just drop Lady like play both of them and then drop Lady Lorena next to them, I think
Oof.
would feel very good. Um, and alas, that is well, it might exist somewhere, but it's going to be rare. Um, cool. Okay. So, any last thoughts before we start walking through the cards?
No, let's get started.
Okay, cool. So I'll kick off with the first two here. So the first one is one we see with every house, but don't see often enough. Dark Amber Vault is an artifact. Its location says after you play a mutant creature, draw a card. Each friendly mutant creature gets +2 power. Um, it's a stupid good card if you get it with a lot of mutant creatures, and uh, yeah, good luck finding one of those decks. But they're cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I have a great deck that has Dark Amber Vault. Really wish I did.
Yep. Agreed. Okay, and then the next one is one we've seen in two other houses, and that's It's Coming. It's an action with a bonus amber. It always comes if you in conjunction with a gigantic creature, and it says play search your deck and discard pile for either half of a gigantic creature, reveal it and put it into your hand, shuffle your deck. And yeah, it's not an amazing. I mean, it would be an amazing effect if you could just target any card, um, but for it mitigates the downside of having to put two cards together.
Yeah, I found that usually in games I can play the gigantic creature if it's in the deck, and this card helps a lot with that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
And
If it worked for this, it would
if you,
work.
yep, and if it wasn't going to work out, or then you can use this card to take the other piece out of your deck and discard it.
Right. Yep. Okay. All right.
All right, so I'll do the next two.
Mhm.
Axiom of Grisk. Play, ward a creature, destroy each creature with no amber on it. Gain 2 chains. Card is still extremely good. I suppose in Mass Mutation, there's um, more of a possibility of your opponent's creatures having captured amber on them because
Mhm.
of the capture icons,
Mhm.
which are all over the place in this set.
Mhm.
So maybe it doesn't work as well as it used to. Still, it's really, really good.
Yep.
Beware the Ides, an action card. You get an amber, and it says deal 23 damage to a creature in the center of this controller's battle line. Thought this card's pretty cool. Reference to the assassination of Julius Caesar.
Uh-huh.
He's the leader of the Romans, and sort of my namesake, I guess.
Uh-huh.
And I did like the flavor a lot. And this card, it's not that bad. When I first saw it, um, I didn't think it was gonna really work much.
Mhm.
However, you can play around it pretty well, if you have it right, because you set up so that you have an even number of creatures, and then you won't be forced to target yourself, and you can play it
Right.
for amber. Or if they have an odd number of creatures, you can essentially just take a creature off the board. And maybe it's not the most interesting one, but getting an amber and destroying a creature is pretty good. Like usually there's some sort of downside when you destroy an opponent's creature, or minimal upside.
Right.
Like even Whale of the Damned, there's no pip. Like you just get an enhanced capture, and
Right.
that's like destroy any creature. But this is like you get a pip and destroy a creature. It's in the middle, maybe not necessarily the one you wanted, but it's still good to get rid of it. Unless they're trying to set you up with a trap, with like put one of the fiends in the middle, or inspector or
Sure.
something like that. Yeah, that's never happened in any
Right.
game that I've played. But maybe that'll I've revealed the secret. More people will be doing that.
Yeah, that's next level meta. Yeah, I think people tend to have creatures they care more about in the middle, probably more than half the time, right? Because maybe they're taunting it or something like that, and so. But yeah, like you said, usually if playing this would hurt you, you usually can manipulate the situation to either to your advantage or to where it's at least not bad. Um, and and yeah, I love the I love that they even did the 23, which if I remember right is the supposedly the number of times that he was stabbed. Um,
Mhm.
but I mean that's all. I don't know how much I believe those details. It's fake news, but uh, but but apparently he was stabbed a lot and very dead. Um,
Yeah,
cool. Okay, so next one is one you brought up. Definitely a great card. Chant of Hubris. It's an action with a bonus amber. When you play it, you move an amber from a creature to another creature. And yeah, when you're doing all these capture and exalt games, it's just a fantastic addition.
totally.
Okay, and then next up is Citizen Shrix, who is a 3-power mutant with play Reap, Exalt Citizen Shrix, steal 1 amber, and yeah, that's good. In the worst case scenario, uh, it's a wash in the end because you're taking one from them. Actually, I guess you're taking one. Well, in the worst case scenario, it's like gain one, right? Because you still get one, but then they get theirs back. Um, but in the best case scenario, you can follow it up with crazy Saurian games and end up either evaporating or getting that amber. So great card.
Yeah, I concur. I think this is a great card. I think it's a really good card.
Hmm.
I love to see this. I think well, the original Senator Strix, like you could do some pretty nice combos.
Yeah,
I think this card has just more immediate
yeah.
impact, and it's play reap. So when you go back to the Saurian, you've already stolen 2 amber, and if you have these in multiples, like it just starts getting out of control, like
Hmm.
lots and lots of stealing, and they have to kill it to get the amber back.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
not that easy to kill this. It has 3 power. It's a mutant, so, like, your Zap won't kill this. It's boosted by Dark Amber Vault. You'll get a Vault's Blessing bonus for this card.
Hmm.
Shadowsmith can protect it, like, the deck that I mentioned earlier that has
Hmm.
the M4 and the Chance of Hubris, it has Shadowsmith and Shadows.
Hmm.
So, now my Citizen Trixes are elusive.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I think it's
Shadowsmith
great.
and oh, what's her name? Boss Eric can both protect it, right? Because it's likely going to have amber. So with either of those, it'll end up elusive. Um, and yeah, I was thinking what you were saying about this versus Senator. Um, it's almost like arc versus synergy. Uh, yeah, this one has a more immediate benefit. Um, Shrix requires support, but with if you or Senator requires support. But if you have the citizen and support, you can still like get crazy benefit, and the benefit you end up with is not like, okay, and now I need to protect it to get the benefit. It's like, no, you stole and then you moved the amber or whatever, and uh yeah, it's definitely, unless you're like really worried about a too much to protect or something like that, and you want the amber on a creature that you can spend it off of, and that's a like really weird corner case. Unless you're in that weird corner case, like you're almost certainly better off with this creature, with the citizen.
Mhm. Yeah. I really like this card, and this makes me wish Tribune Poptus was in set. 'Cause that
Oh,
would be
yeah,
very, very nice.
yeah. Another terrible loss. Okay.
Yeah, actually, that reminds me, there is one thing the Saurian house doesn't do. It has no artifact interactions.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any card in Saurian in either
Yes.
set that does
When
anything to an artifact.
when I was picking my favorite Maverick, I almost picked Reclaim by Nature just because of that. But then I was like, well, yeah, that's like, and it's fixing a hole, right? But yeah, that is definitely a weakness of theirs.
Yeah, and I mean, if you ever you could have Untamed in your deck, like only a few houses even had artifact removal,
Hmm.
and some of them, like, you could use the artifact, and, um, yeah, it hasn't been that consistent between houses, so I mean, if they had like anything at all, that would be nice. But
Hmm.
I can understand why they don't.
Hmm.
All right, next up, console Primus, enhanced capture. So that's something that I think could be overlooked with this
Hmm.
card when you see it in your list.
Hmm.
And 3 power dinosaur politician, move 1 amber from a creature to another creature. So it's like Chant of Hubris, except it's slower.
Yep.
Um, I don't think I want to see this card in multiples.
Mm.
It's a little bit too like if you could just compare this to Citizen Tricks, I think
Hmm.
it pairs well. Like if you happen to have a Primus on the board or something,
Hmm.
but I think this card is considerably weaker than Citizen Tricks, and I would want to see like at most one of these.
Yeah. Yeah, if you can protect it, it's nice. You get the effect multiple times, but uh, even I know like a I guess misconception that I fall into very frequently is overcounting reap effects because even if you play this early and it sticks, you're probably going to reap with it like 3 times, and that's that makes at that point it is better than a Chant of Hubris, um, but that's almost like the very best case scenario. So
Cool. All right. Next we have I'm not fresh on my Latin, but Cornichon Octavia. Um, 5 power, 1 armor, dinosaur soldier. Action capture 2.
yeah,
A bit slow,
uh huh,
still pretty good. Capture 2 amber. It's a beefy creature. Not a lot to not like here. We had like Charette and Albade the Grim from the older sets, and they can capture 3 on play, but they don't have that repeated effect like this
yeah,
does. Uh, I don't recall playing many games where I'm capturing with this over and over unless I'm in a
right,
bind. Um, and I do think this compares favorably to Borden the Redeemed, who is 3 power and elusive in Sanctum and Age of Ascension.
yeah,
And uh, Octavia can fight. I mean, 5
yeah,
power, 1 armor. This can get rid of some problems on the board.
yeah. And in the art, you have depicted the Siren Horn, and that'll come up later. But I think obviously that pairs well, right? If you can capture 2 and then get a couple fights in where you're pushing the amber onto another creature, um, that can work well. Um, but yeah, this isn't like uh, it's not a fast effect. It's just a little clunky. But if you can get it to work, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's a mediocre card.
Yeah. Okay, next up is Curse of Vanity. It's an action with a bonus amber, and when you play it, you exalt a friendly creature and an enemy creature. And I think the dumbest mistake I keep making with this is like destroying an opponent's creature before I play this. so
Oh
so
yeah.
and then I'm like, I could have had that amber this turn, but just keep it safe for me.
hmm Yeah, this is a burst potential. I mean, Ghostly Hand is a better card than this.
Hmm.
This is a nice thing to have in Saurian.
Hmm. Yep. And notably, if you play it when you have no creatures on the board, you effectively get 2 and don't give any away. So um, worth worth playing it first if you don't have creatures on the board.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. And
Mhm.
cards like this that have a symmetric effect, like
Mhm.
okay, exalt a friendly creature and enemy creature. The power in it comes from the fact that you pick the creatures.
Right.
So you pick the creature that is the most inconvenient for them to destroy, and you can pick the one that's the easiest for you to destroy.
Right. Yeah, I think I was playing a game, I think it was earlier today, where I did this and I put the amber on a Brabble because and I think they were past key two, so they were never again gonna be like at zero amber. And okay, like you if you want this amber, you're gonna have to lose three. Um,
Yep. It's
felt good.
basically gone.
Yeah. Okay, and then next up is Demosaurus, which is the first of six of these hybrid creatures that we'll see. Um, it's a four-power mutant dinosaur. The dinosaur, the Saurian part gives it the Saurus part of the name, and the play effect, which is you may exalt Demosaurus. If you do, deal 3 damage to a creature. And the Demo part comes from Deist. It's the Deist hybrid version, and that gives it the destroyed effect, steal one. And this is one of my favorite hybrids. I think because yeah, it has that play deal 3 damage effect if you need it, and then for them to get the amber back, they'll probably end up having you steal one. So it's almost going to be no cost to you um, much of the time, and it ends up being a nice little effect.
Definitely. I think the Demo Fiend combinations are the strongest ones. Um, Probably the Dino is the other one I would consider for top. So the two together is pretty great.
Yeah, the only one I would put up as a contender against those that is not doesn't involve dinos at all is if you get the Star Alliance fight effect with skirmish from Untamed. That can be really
Mhm.
cool. Um, but but yeah, the raw effects, the absolute like anything you put destroyed steel one on anything and you're pretty happy.
Yeah, you definitely are. And I'm also a fan of the Lyco Alien
hmm
Xeno Beast creatures.
hmm
Um, it's
Yeah,
just you have to get them to fire, and that's the part that's hard.
right.
But those are probably my second favorite.
hmm Cool.
Okay, let's move on. Defense initiative. Action card. Ward a creature. You may exalt that creature. If you exalt it, ward each of its neighbors. Make this a more fair version of Imperium, which was way too good
Uh-huh.
from the previous set. It gives you a pip of Amber. You pick the two creatures you want to ward. They have to be friendly, um, but they can be anywhere on the battle line. So that was pretty
Yeah.
great. Defense initiative does introduce more skill because you have to have the creatures next to each other, um, and you have the decision of whether to exalt to
hmm
take care of the neighbors. So I think this puts more emphasis on your creature placement, which
Yeah.
is a good thing for the game, and I think a better, skill differentiator, and also this card just feels less frustrating to play against than Imperium, especially if you had Imperium in multiples, it was like,
Yes.
it's just getting dumb. Like, okay, they've warded, like, everybody good,
Right.
and they're, like, taunting, and it's just wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
defensive initiative, even though you can ward more creatures, um, from from the card, like, you could
hmm
ward up to 3, like, the restrictions, I think, make it more balanced. It's still really good.
hmm
Also, you can ward an enemy creature, and in some
In
niche
your Quixel decks.
circumstances, that's
Yeah.
actually good. Yeah, like Quixel Stone decks or, you ward their, uh, Brend or,
Yeah.
uh, Fiend or whoever
Harbinger.
creature
Yeah.
that has, like, a Harbinger, yeah, that has a good, destroyed effect that you do not want to trigger. Okay. Next up, Faust the Great. He's just a dinosaur, 4 power. Your opponent's keys cost +1 amber for each friendly creature with amber on it. Play, you may exalt a friendly creature. I love this card.
hmm
I think it is a great stall card. It synergizes with itself in multiples
hmm
because now every creature that was Faust, like all the investment that you put into making the first Faust payoff is just doubled as soon as you
Hmm.
put down a second Faust. And you can manipulate it so that your opponent is paying really high numbers, or just stall them out until you forge the third key. There you don't get that huge payoff anymore that you would get in the older sets by you stall them out with Faust forever, and then finally when it's solved, you play interdimensional graft or something like that.
Right.
Um, yeah, so those possibilities don't exist anymore, which is maybe why this card isn't completely busted. Like Eddie 4x4.
Right.
But
Right.
that said, like Faust, really, really strong, um, and I'm a big fan.
Yeah. Yeah. And Eddie had it not only was there too much to protect in that set, but there was also IG in house. Yeah. So you didn't even have to. You have a common and uncommon, and you're golden. But yeah, Faust is fantastic, and I think one of the fun things about it is if you I mean, let's say your opponent has 7 amber and you have no exalted creatures and you play Faust. When you do this exalt, right? Like it's free because you're creating an amber that they're going to get back, but they're now paying an extra amber. Um, so it's effectively like a capture at that point. So it's like,
Hmm.
well, if you get to stall, great. If not, if you get to burst the cost up for them, that's pretty fantastic. And then if you combine it like with other cards, like Curiosaurus, where it's like, okay, well, you can't forge, and then when you come and take the amber, or when you come and kill Faust, that amber is going to go on your creature instead of to your pool. It can just get pretty bonkers. I don't think I have a Faust Furia deck, but I'll have to look for that now.
Yeah, I have one actually, and I've been trying to test it out more. I was focused on other decks in my collection. However, I think this Curia um, Faust Strix deck
Hmm.
that I have is quite promising,
Hmm.
and it has autoencoder and like pretty good set and dis. And basically, I just pitch a bunch of stuff for the first few turns if
Mm.
I got my autoencoder, and then I play Gateway and Mark of Dis, and you skip turn, and then I dump out massive Saurian with Curia,
Uh huh.
and
Ugh.
hard to recover from that,
Yeah. Huh.
including Faust, of course.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's real good. Okay. Next up is a returning card from Worlds Collide. It's Galeatops, which I'm sure I'm saying that one wrong, but we do our best. But it's a 12 power creature, but it only deals 4 damage when fighting. Uh, yeah, it's a nice big reusable body.
Yeah, I think his card's pretty boring. Uh, you can put captured amber on it, and it's,
Hmm.
I guess, a bit challenging to get it back. Um, I suppose you could put some interesting upgrades, like if what's it, disruption field or quadricorder or
Mm.
any of that got reprinted,
Hmm.
could be good on this creature. But you could use Pterodactyl for the same thing, and
Right.
Pterodactyl has a better effect. So
Yeah.
I don't really understand
But comes out
this
stunned.
card.
Oh, and yeah,
Well, yeah,
I lied. This wasn't in Worlds Collide, was it? No, I made that up.
yeah, Galeatops wasn't.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is like it's a worse pterodactyl, except that you can use it 1 turn sooner. But then pterodactyl came in a set that had a lot of ready and use effects, so it,
Yeah,
it had that going for it.
I think Pterodactyl. It's. I mean, it's definitely not like an A card. Probably maybe B minus,
Hmm.
but it can do some stuff every now and then.
Yeah,
Galeatops. No, I don't.
yeah. Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
really
It's
see it.
never
I see it
never
in
a
my
major
list, and
force.
I'm disappointed.
Hmm. Next up, we have the first of the monuments, and this is Monument to Ludo. It's an artifact. It's a location, and it has action. Move one amber from a creature to the common supply. If Perfectus Ludo is in your discard pile, move two amber from that creature to the common supply instead. Uh, I I really like this effect.
Mm,
I finally got a deck that uses it, and it turned out to be very nice. If you have it with Octavia or I don't know, there's a bunch of creatures that it just pairs really nicely with.
mm. So it turns Octavia into action, your opponent loses 2 amber. It's not
Yeah,
bad.
and the thing I think is pretty cool about it is like if you have the Ludo on the board, great. Ludo's doing Ludo things, and you're very happy about that. And then when Ludo gets killed, it's like, oh, cool. Now this is doing, now this is twice as effective. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, you have to be paired with the right things so that you can get the value out of the two, out of the number two. But it's a cool effect.
Yeah, I like the flavor of the monuments, and
Hmm.
they may not be the most, powerful cards,
Hmm.
however, late in the game, if you have a monument engine going, and we'll see some of the other monuments too, it can get pretty impressive. Alright, so my turn. Speaking of monuments, we have, Perfectus Ludo. So the monument to Ludo, this is the individual the monument is named after, and Ludo comes back from Worlds Collide and has pretty great effect. Each other friendly creature gains destroyed, move each amber from this creature to the common supply with 5 power. So 5 power, it's great. You can use Ludo to fight many problems off
Hmm.
the table, and it is becoming a must kill for all the captured amber because the opponent won't get it back, and they have to spend resources to get Ludo, who doesn't really do too much, right? Like you'd rather fight the creatures that are having effects that are messing up your game plan, and like now you have to spend resources to get Ludo off so that you can get your amber back. Um, and perhaps you're dealing with some persistent effects like daughter or um, hmm, what are the other persistent? Maybe there's a subject Kirby on the table that's like
Hmm.
giving you a lot of problems. But they have amber on them, and so it's like if you go after them, like you have to go to Ludo first, unless you
Right.
want to give up the amber. And so he provides uh, amber protection, or sorry, creature protection
Yeah.
through the fact that like you have the opponent has to make that choice. So Ludo it's good. Sometimes when you get a Ludo and you don't have amber on your creatures, it's like it's not doing much for me.
Hmm.
But I think on average, and Ludo will give value. And I think in top decks, if you have Saurian, you really want to see a Ludo. I think unfortunately my best deck was Saurian. Doesn't have Ludo, but it does have a bunch of ways to move the amber to the opponent or move it to my pool,
Hmm.
which is nice. But if you don't have anything at all, they destroy your creatures and they just get the amber back. Like the
Right.
Saurian house looks a lot weaker. So
Right.
I think this is a very critical card to have.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, in Worlds Collide, there were situations where you could get like Ludo, Regrettable Meteor, and just evaporate everything very suddenly. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I think that's a little harder to do in Mass Mutation, but it's still very good, and it's fun because, like you were saying, how it provides creature protection. It's effectively taunt. It's just not the keyword taunt, but but from a strategic perspective, it is, it's the same. Always good if you can like get it behind something with taunt and put a lot of a lot of amber on the thing with taunt, but um, yeah, I think it's a pretty flexible card, and yeah, even if the effect doesn't matter in the particular moment, then you have a 5 power body, and that's never terrible.
Definitely. All right. Next up, we have Sagittarius Gaze. Gives you an Amber Pip and enhanced damage. Play. Exalt a damaged creature. Hmm. As a common, I don't think this card is strong enough to
Hmm.
see in multiples. Um, I do have one deck where it has two of these, and actually they both have it enhanced damage on them.
Hmm.
It got me thinking, like, it was just really lucky because I think those are also the only damage enhancements in the deck.
Hmm.
Um, there may be some others, but like it was a happy coincidence.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, well, this is just, maybe a more sensible version of this card.
Right.
And it was pretty good. Like I do a damage and exalt and I get an amber. Like that was a great effect. So I could see how they thought like that was too powerful.
Hmm.
Um maybe one pip isn't enough
Hmm.
for this card. Like but I also understand that it needs to I mean one damage pip.
You're saying, yeah, if it
Um
was like enhanced 2 damage, yeah.
yeah, if it was enhanced 2 damage and had an amber pip, maybe it's too good. So it was pretty tricky to balance it. I think they came down on the like 2 week
Hmm.
side, and one easy improvement they could have made was make the effect optional. But like you have to sometimes end up exalting your own creatures
Right.
when you play this. Is a frustrating experience for a card that doesn't do
Hmm.
a lot of the time. So on the whole, this is not a card I want to see in my deck.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's if in the right situation, it's good, and in but it has too many potential downsides. Yeah. Uh, and in fact, talking about like action cards getting their own enhancement on them, I'd much rather. Well, no, it's not. Never mind. This doesn't get have the enhancement, but I'd much rather have like a Chant of Hubris with a capture icon on it than a Sagittarius Gaze with a damage on it. Um,
Mhm.
okay, so next up is Spoils of Battle, another action with a bonus amber, and this one says play a friendly creature captures 1 amber. Each creature with amber on it captures 1 from its opponent. Um, so in that sense, it's similar to like Pandemonium, where it's uh, here, if a creature already has amber on it, it's going to capture more. But it's symmetrical. But you get that a friendly creature captures 1 in the front, so you at least prime it. You're going to get to capture 2 total with the card.
Mhm.
I think if you get this in multiples, it's really fun to to do one and then another. And
Mhm.
if you, I have one deck that has City State Interest, 2 of these, and 2 Curiosaurus, and um,
Oof.
that yeah, it's brain breaking, but very very fun.
Yeah, this is a pretty fun card. Um, I like it a lot. I've rarely been in situations where I didn't want to play this.
Hmm.
Um, you could imagine such situations, but I think okay, well, maybe I'll just lay it out a bit more. So, like, if there's a lot of captured amber on their side of the board, then they could be capturing a lot from you, and you're not
Yeah.
necessarily getting value. Um, but yeah, I think this works really well with exalting your own creatures, and this is
Hmm.
it's not scaling amber control because it isn't proportional to how much amber your opponent has. But this can delete 10
Yeah.
amber. Like, I
Very
think
easily. Yeah.
actually, yep. There's a call of the week game where I think Rob 89 he had over 8 amber, I'm pretty sure. And I think with I did like a city state spoils of battle or something, took him to 0.
Hmm.
eventually was able to get back and whatever, but like just going if you're fighting for the third key and you both have two keys and they just went from like 8 or 9 down to 0,
Yeah,
and now they have to waste time fighting your creatures and you're just rushing to threaten the final key, that can be a huge swing.
yeah.
Yeah, and unlike in Tribute, like, this actually spreads out on the board.
Hmm.
So, in some ways, it's more difficult to deal with than Tribute.
Yeah, for sure. No, for sure. It requires a little more synergy, but it actually has a higher upside, a lower
Mhm.
downside, and yeah, yeah. I never thought about that because I often think I miss tribute, but I think this is a better card and definitely better
Yeah.
in set.
Yeah, I would say it's comparable to Tribute, and a lot of what made Tribute more, like, just really, busted in the previous set were the combos you could do with it.
Yeah,
Like, it's like Tribute, 6 Semper, okay, you just stole 4 and gained 2, like, it's
right.
just dumb.
Yeah,
The two-card combo.
yeah.
Um, I don't mean, like, dumb design or anything like that. I think it's just
Feels bad.
I I mean dumb as in, like, "Oh, that didn't take much effort to do." It is just, like,
Right.
super good. So,
Yep.
yeah, sometimes when you're on the receiving end of that, like, it doesn't feel great, but, like,
Yeah.
a elegant spoils of battle turn, even the opponent will be impressed with
And that's what we all want. Um,
you.
okay, so next up is Thero Centurion, who is a 6 power dinosaur soldier with 1 armor, and I'm sure this one is back from Worlds Collide.
Mhm,
And it has play, fight, capture, 1 amber. Um, and yeah, that's it works perfect in the house. You get repeating capture, and you it's a big body with an armor. It's a little less good now that you can't put Scudam on it, but
mhm.
still quite good.
Yeah, I think it's great. Like, 6 power, 1 armor, that's pretty top end, like, you're starting to get into the range where creatures with this much power, like, have negative effects.
Yeah.
So, play, fight, capture 1 is great. Wondering the picture, where is he? He seems to be at some sort of dock or
Yeah, some port.
yeah. So, maybe he's going fishing, not sure.
Maybe he's about to
Uh
receive some dark tidings.
Yeah, it could be a tease for the next set.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe he's about to hear that something he was really looking forward to is being delayed till April. Uh, okay.
Alright, okay. I guess whenever there's a pregnant pause, it means it's my turn. Alright.
I can
Ancient power.
I know. I wish in person you could have a baton that you pass back and
Mhm.
forth, but I prefer awkward silence.
Alright. Ancient power, action. I remember when I saw a spoiler for this card, I was like, "Are they seriously printing this?" Like, okay. Um, Ancient power, play Amber Pip.
Yeah.
Play. Ward each friendly creature with amber on it. Like, this could ward your whole board.
Yeah.
Um, it's, like, quite easy to get amber on your Saurian creatures. You just ward all of them, no downside. You get amber for this, for playing this card. It is really, really good. No alpha, no omega, just straight up power. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I am very happy to see ancient power in any deck that I open.
Yeah, it's like you were talking earlier about Imperium being so good, right? Because you get to pick two, but
Mhm.
usually the creatures with amber on them are oftentimes you would like to word those. Um,
Yep.
and there are again in this set there are even more ways to spread the amber out. In Worlds Collide you had like city state interest basically, or uh, there's the city gates that could do it, but here it's like in this set you have so many ways to put amber on random creatures and really spread it out, even without succeed interest, and then have it. Yeah, here, okay, word word the whole board. It's very good.
Yeah, it's really, really good, and, this I'm glad they printed this card. It's made me happy many times. Alright, blast from the past. Um, Play. Exalt the friendly creature, archive a Saurian creature from your discard pile, deal damage equal to the archive creature's power to an enemy creature. Okay, so a few things I like about this. First of all, it's an enemy creature, so you don't get into the awkward situation
Mm,
where you might have to damage your own creature. You may have situation where you wish you could destroy your own creature, but I prefer the optionality. Um, well, the lack of optionality, rather, in this case,
mm-hmm.
just because I might want to archive creatures from my discard, even if you don't have a board.
Right.
Um, so you do have to do an exalt, so there is a cost to this. Archiving creatures from the discard pile is really strong, um, especially if you can do Faust or Citizen Tricks or some Amber control that you're going to need at the end of the game potentially.
Uh
Um,
huh.
or you could take the 12 power doofus and do like a lot of damage uh, to some problematic creature on the other side, and then you can leave it in your archives, and you don't have to draw it again either.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty nice. So
Mm-hmm.
I think this card is versatile, and occasionally it's a dead draw,
Yeah.
but you could just discard it in that case. It doesn't have a pip, so you don't really feel bad about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so I haven't gotten to use it much, so I think I maybe undervalue it a little bit compared to I'm comparing it to like Grim Reminder is a similar effect, but you get the Amber Pip um instead of the
Stirring Grave.
damage. I think yeah, Stirring Grave. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. The I think I don't like the downside that it has to be a Saurian creature.
Mhm.
That's the part I like least about this card. But if you have a Siren creature you really want, like you get your Faust back or something like that, that's super good.
Yeah, and I think the damage piece is pretty powerful.
Hmm.
Like sometimes when I play Stirring Grave, I it can feel slow.
Uh huh.
Like, "Oh, okay, I got an amber and this creature's in my archives," and it didn't affect their engine for the
Hmm.
upcoming turn they're going to take.
Right.
And I think when you can continuously pressure your opponent every turn, um, because they called the house they did and played the cards they did because they're trying to set up something.
Right.
And if Stirring Grave doesn't interfere with that.
Hmm.
So now you have to deal with like the more advanced version of their engine
Uh-huh.
a turn later. This card is more disruption. So I would say, even with the drawbacks, that's about comparable power level.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I think Grim Reminder is definitely stronger than both of those, though.
Yeah. 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 I definitely meant to compare it with Sterngrave, not Grim Reminder. Um,
Mhm.
that is a that's a crazy good card. Um, okay,
Yeah.
so next up is one of my favorites here, Busy State Interest. It's an action, no bonus amber on this one, but that's perfectly okay. When you play it, each friendly creature captures one amber. Um, yeah, it's just a great, great effect that has saved many games for me.
Yeah. It, amazing card. Just extremely good
Yep.
and straightforward. I mean, it's pretty clear why it's good.
Yes. Yeah, and of course lots of good synergies in the house, but yeah, even if you couldn't throw a Faust or a Brachus in the mix, it's still just very good.
Hmm.
Yeah, oh, the next one again one of my favorite cards here, Curiosaurus. It's an artifact, it's a location, and it says that each creature with amber on it gains destroyed, move one amber from this creature to the most powerful enemy creature. Um, and I think I think the reason this card gets some people don't like it is not because of how powerful it is, although I think it can be pretty powerful, but just because it's something that is difficult for them to remember. Um,
Hmm.
and and it has the added there's a little bit of complexity of time complexity here because um, the amber is moving around, but the only the creatures that had amber on it before they were marked for destruction uh, have this effect applied to them, and so people get um, people get a little confused sometimes with how exactly it should work. Um, so it's one of the few cards I would say is like much easier to get right playing on online than playing in person.
Yeah, I think in person, probably a lot of people play this incorrectly. It is a complicated trigger to resolve. Maybe one of the most complicated ones in the game. Um,
Yeah,
it does. It does take. It does delay the period for the captured amber to get back into the game, and particularly if you have Saurian and your opponent doesn't, then you're exalting or capturing, and then they don't really get it back. Like, it
right,
just aggregates on one of your creatures, and then all you have to show for it is, you get one of those amber gets moved back, um,
right,
when that creature is finally destroyed. And if that creature gets bounced or purged instead, then it was all, wasted. So, this card, you really love to see it in Saurian because it just makes life a lot harder for the opponent. I think it's
yes,
really, really powerful card.
yeah, yeah. So good. My yeah, the my deck with two of them has a couple QMEX and an Exile, and one of the really fun tricks to pull is get as much amber as possible accumulated onto a QMEX, exile it, and then kill it, and you can trigger the QMEX destroyed effect first,
Mhm.
which then has it, go into your archives before any of the amber would get back to your creature. So then you get all that amber. Um, Meanwhile, the Curiosauruses are typically getting max effect for my own creatures. But yeah,
Nice.
it's good, and it amplifies the rest of the house so much. But it's a little just sad to me that it stresses people out. I wish that people felt, you can sometimes you can feel good about cards even when you're losing to them, and I wish Curiosaurus was a little more that way, and not so I hate, like, I want to play it all the time, um but then I also, like, I don't want to stress people out, so it's a little rough that way.
Hmm. I guess I haven't heard too much about stress, um, but I can definitely see how people might feel that way.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I like it a lot too. Maybe it's not as fun to be on the receiving end of this if you weren't prepared, and
Yes.
because it is such a good effect. All right. Next up, we have Dark Centurion, 5 power mutant soldier. It's not a dinosaur, interestingly. Enhance double capture. So already that's pretty good because we had General Salvador in Sanctum, which is 4/2 power armor. And it's just
Hmm.
enhanced to capture and just no more effect.
Hmm.
So this card already doing a little bit more than that. It says action move 1 amber from a creature to the common supply. If you do, ward that creature. This is pretty slow. That said, it does get the Exalted Amber off and protects the creature. What kind of creatures do you want to protect? Maybe. So you could capture under a creature that you want to ward later, or you could ward Citizen Shrix. Maybe you ward Dark Centurion itself. I think this is pretty balanced.
Yeah.
It's I'm not jumping for joy when I see this. Uh, I think it's all right.
Yeah, I think the enhance to capture is probably like the more valuable. Um,
Mhm,
thing I often feel like I'd rather reap than do the action, um,
mhm.
which makes it, like you said, a little less exciting, but also means it's probably pretty well balanced. Because
Yeah,
reaping's good.
it is good, and yeah, wards can be popped with damage pips
Hmm.
and whatnot. But sometimes you ward an important creature, and it just lives for another turn, and then it can do its thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you get this with a Brachus and like can repeatedly ward your Brachus, and you're probably pretty happy.
Yeah, although you do losing Amber too. But
the
well,
the
yeah, we
one
were.
situation where you're sad to see the Ember evaporate. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we were also talking about Monument to Ludo earlier. I mean,
Hmm.
move one amber from a creature to common supply. That's what the monument did,
Hmm.
and it's sort of like that. So even
Hmm.
without the warding, it's you know I'm warming on this card a little bit,
Hmm.
just a little bit. Okay, Dreadbone Decimus. Um, I like this card a lot. Sadly, I don't really have like good decks
Hmm.
with this card. Dinosaur Assassin, 5 power. Play fight. So when you see play effect on a card, that's very good.
Hmm.
You may exalt Dreadbone Decimus, optional. We like that. If you do, destroy a creature with lower power than Dreadbone Decimus. So he comes in, exalt, one of your opponent's creatures just gone.
Hmm.
And I mean, 4 power or below, that those are most of the creatures that have like annoying effects.
Hmm.
So they have Ember Imp, it's dead. Restringunce is dead. Uh, Daughter, Subject Kirby, Com Officer Kirby,
Duskwitch.
Duskwitch, Fandangle,
Yep.
uh, Eddie, Glixel Proliferator, Tesmal. Yeah, lots of really good stuff.
Hmm.
And it's just gone. It doesn't matter. Well, I mean, if it was warded, I guess they'll lose the ward. But Lieutenant Corvinal, he's gone.
Hmm.
All that amber they were capturing. Many creatures in Sanctum, in fact, are gone. So he can Dreadbone Decimus can get it done, and then he can fight and do it again.
Hmm.
So he's taken out 3 creatures in 2 uses. And
Yeah.
okay, yeah, you had to exalt him, but maybe you can exile him afterward, or you
Hmm.
could ward him with the Dark Centurion.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this guy with Dark Centurion, that's probably the right combo to look for,
Hmm.
because then you can just keep doing that every turn. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, Dreadbone, really great. All right,
Uh,
I,
yeah, I think. Oh, are you still up? I think. Oh no, no,
I
it's
did
me.
Dark
Oh,
Centurion and Dreadbone.
I'm bad. Okay, okay. I should be exiled. Exile is an action with a bonus amber. When you play it, you give control of a friendly creature to your opponent. Uh, which, yeah, if you have moved a bunch of amber onto that creature, is uh just a dirty, dirty move.
Yep, not much to add there.
Yeah. Yep. And then Gladiodontus is a 15 power mutant. I think if this were not mass mutation, he'd be like a beast, but in this case, a mutant. And 15 power. Yeah, that's very big. He enters play stunned, but only deals 5 damage when fighting, and has Fight Reap if this is the first time Gladiodontus has been used this turn. Ready and enrage it. Um, I haven't seen this be super effective, but it's always very scary to me
Mhm.
to see it come out. Yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like this a lot more than Galeatops, just because of for a few reasons. So it has more power. Okay, that's better. And
Hmm.
then it deals 5 damage instead of 4.
Hmm.
I think 5 is significantly better. Um, Most creatures in the game have 5 power or below. With 4, you are still missing some of the bigger creatures that you would love to fight with someone like a 12 power dinosaur. But Gladiodontus can do 5, so it could take out Mother and other really big creatures. And then um, that it could go twice after it gets online is pretty amazing.
Hmm.
Yes, the second time you have to enrage it. However, I think with this creature, you're probably fighting anyway. So either it's fight gain one, like headhunter effect if you reap and then fight, or just uh, fight twice. Um, Not many creatures can do that, and with 15 power, I mean, it'll be around a while. So this is cleanup crew card. Yeah, Ender's Place done. Don't really like that.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, so yeah, I'd say this is average.
Yeah, yeah. It just struggles with getting online, and yeah, unfortunately, this set just doesn't have a lot of great help to get online. But
Hmm.
if you can pair it with some cross house use effects like Commander Chan or um, Seeker of Truth to get it unstunned faster, then I think um, it can be a lot more effective.
Yep.
Cool.
All right. Next up, we have hedonistic intent. Uh, Get an amber for playing it. Play exalt each flank creature. So simple effect. It's putting 4 amber into the game, and unlike Curse of Vanity, you do have less control over the creatures.
Hmm.
Yes, because on the flank, it means it will affect the creatures that you could play that turn. So you could engineer it a little bit.
Hmm.
But yeah, if you have one creature and they have two, you could get some pretty nice edge with this card. So I think it's a nice flavor on Curse of Vanity if you're going for that bursty Saurian.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty straightforward. What do you think?
Yeah. I think the if you can, this is another one where especially if you can manage to like pull this off when your board is empty, it feels real good.
Hmm.
Because if you effectively, it's like a slow virtuous works at that point.
Hmm.
Um, but again, as long as you have good mitigation effects, even if you exalt your own stuff, it's pretty okay. So yeah, I like it.
Cool. Next up, we have Humble Amber Pip. Play exhaust a creature. Excuse me. If you do, move 3 amber from that creature to common supply. Exhausting a creature can be good as an offensive tool.
Yeah.
You can also use this to remove amber from your own creatures in a pinch, especially if they're from a different house.
Hmm.
Um, so kind of like Snurrat has the action remove all the amber off this creature. You can get a targeted version of that with Humble.
Hmm.
Um, And it'll depend a lot on your deck what you can use it for, but I like that this card has a modality where you can use it to disrupt your opponent's board or protect uh, captured amber, like really take it to the bank.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, and good, uh, good solid uh references in the flavor. I love the darn you Altadis, um, bastardization of Charlton Heston there. Uh, but yeah, like I love that. I've even seen this used like to like maybe your opponent has you know a Pompatus with 3 amber on it or something, and you use this just to get it down to size so you can kill it. Um, where you weren't going to get that amber back anyway, but now you can solve the problem, right? So there's just a lot of flexibility in how the card gets used.
Hmm.
Mm. Cool. Okay. Next up is Library of Peliosaurus. It's an artifact and a location. It has action, move 1 amber from a friendly creature to your pool. Uh, yeah, that's just always good.
Yep, I think this card works great in Saurian decks. It's pretty much never dead.
Yeah, has lots of friends. Okay, next up is Sarian Egg. It's a creature with an amber pip and 5 armor and 1 power. It can't fight or reap, but it has Omni. Discard the top 2 cards of your deck. If you discard any Saurian cards this way, put them into play ready, give them 3+1 power counters, and destroy Saurian Egg. And that seems cool to me. I think it's good if you get it with like the right creatures and it fires on not a Saurian turn, but and it seems like it's a really fun. I think it's in the category of like it's really fun. I haven't seen it be like a reliable game winner by any stretch.
Yeah, it's a strange card. Not many other cards like it.
Hmm.
Um, I certainly think the Omni is interesting. You could end up discarding cards that you need,
Hmm.
so that's not great. And okay, let's say you bring in Saurian creatures ready on a non-Saurian turn. I mean, what is that really achieving?
Hmm.
So it's a bit difficult. I do like the 5 armor.
Hmm.
Usually, what I end up doing with Saurian Egg, so you get an amber for playing it, which is great.
Hmm.
Um, so the card has to be pretty awful for the amber pip not to matter.
Yeah.
And the 5 armor means I can exalt this creature and dump amber on it, and because it's not that useful, it's actually quite challenging for the opponent to get it back, and they have to
Right.
waste removal on this guy.
Right.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, and then you're gonna get to shuffle it back and get that pip again. So yeah, yeah, that's a good setup.
yep.
Um, yeah.
Okay. Next up, we have Senator Quintana, 5 power dinosaur politician. After creature reaps, exalted. I don't have much experience with this card, to be honest. It doesn't seem that good to me, um, because I suppose the exalting is a downside, but then I just won't reap if I think it's a
Right.
problem. And so this just makes this like a worse version of Barrister Joya. And it also affects me.
Hmm.
Um, and there are synergies with exalting, but unless I have Senator Brackus engine going, I like exalting my creatures is not something that I'm like seeking to do.
Hmm.
So I don't like this card very much.
Yeah, I haven't. It's a cool theory, but yeah, I haven't ever seen a deck where it's like, oh, this and this is the card that makes it work. Yeah, not very likely.
Yeah, I think if this applied to just enemies, like that would be more in line with the
Hmm.
cards like Handle You and Psionic Officer Lang.
Hmm. Yep.
All right, next up we have Siren Horn. This creature gains before a fight. Move one amber from this creature to the creature it fights. Yes, this is like a taste of Curia. Nowhere near
Yeah,
the goodness
that's fair.
from the real thing. So I am quite disappointed whenever I see this card on my list.
I like in theory I like it so much. I think I like fight effects, but yeah, it ends up being really slow and awkward.
Yeah. And the amber has to be on the creature that has this upgrade.
Right.
Like
Right.
it's incredibly situational and like yeah, you're not even firing this multiple times and like
Yeah. The trick is to use Chant of Hubris to move the amber from one of your other creatures to this creature. That way, fire.
yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, that's like the Rube Goldberg
Yes.
device to get amber on the opponent's creature. You don't move it directly there. You
Yes.
want to make sure that you use Siren Horn.
Yes, it's the 10D chess. Okay, so uh, then Stomp is an action with a bonus amber. When you play it, you deal 5 damage to a creature. If this damage destroys that creature, exalt a friendly creature. Uh, I really like this one. I'm I like Failing Strike better, but I really like Stomp.
Hmm. Uh, yeah, I think I like Stomp a little bit more actually. Um,
Huh.
just because, yeah, 5 damage right away. You're dealing with
Hmm.
most things. Um, and it basically it's exalted creature because almost always, at least in my experience, like I've picked the creature I can destroy. Uh,
Yeah.
you could deal damage with it. It's not optional, so you could have an issue where you only have your own creatures. Doesn't happen too much. I also think the flavor on this card is pretty funny.
Hmm.
Uh, if Flurp is the uh, alien that's about to get squished.
Yes. Yes. No one has seen him. He's Toe Jam
Yeah.
or a
Or
little Martian.
yep.
Uh, okay, and then next up is Pterodactyl, who's a 12 power beast that enters play stunned. Only deals 4 damage when fighting, but before fight deals 4 damage to each neighbor of the creature that it fights. Yeah, that is. I mean, it's a great effect if you can get it.
Mhm. Yeah, and sometimes this can be your board control.
Yeah.
Like dealing 4 to neighbors. I mean, Lord Golgotha does 3.
Hmm.
Fire Breath and Smite is 2. Dealing 4 to neighbors gets around taunts and deals with a lot more stuff than 3 does. I mean, 5 is the best, as we talked about earlier, like
Hmm.
Bingo Bang Bang can do that,
Yeah.
um, and doesn't come into play stunned. So, Bingo Bang Bang's probably better than Pterodactyl. I think
Hmm.
Pterodactyl's okay, though.
Yeah, and the thing with the pterodactyl is if you can get it online, it's going to stay online for a little bit, which something. Yeah, I think you're going to get to use Bingo Bang Bang more often, but if you start using pterodactyl, you're probably going to get to use it again and again, which is
Mm,
which is pretty good.
true.
Cool.
Alright. Next up, alright, we're into the rares now.
Nice.
Amphora Captura. It's an artifact. Enhance 2 amber, 2 damage to draw. So I already this is the most enhancements that we see on the card,
Hmm.
except for Splinter, which is all damage. So it's definitely better. Um, it's just the enhance alone. I think this would be a great card,
Hmm.
but there's more. When resolving a bonus icon, you may choose to resolve it as a capture bonus icon instead. So that means you've just opened up like stops in every house. So
Yeah.
all these pips that are floating around your deck, like they can now be a way to take your opponent off key. And if you have other synergies in Saurian, like Curiosaurus, maybe in the best case, but like
Uh-huh.
even in Perfectus Ludo or Saurian Egg,
Uh-huh.
suddenly you are doing tons and tons of amber control. It's just very irritating to deal with when you're on the other side of it. And not
Yeah.
to mention that, you know, up to 6 cards in their deck, just like better versions because of the enhancements,
Yep.
which synergize with this card because you can capture. So this is really, really great card.
Yeah. It is, and uh I think I have oh no, I'm there are a few decks out there that have this and Scriven or Fabian from Sanctum, and if you if you have them both on the board, it turns every pip into a steal. Uh
Yeah.
which is completely outrageous and only mitigated by the fact that very few decks can have it, and Fabian is very easy to kill. But uh, yeah, very very cool things can happen, and I love. I think those are the only two cards that have that sort of effect. Um, but what a cool thing, and like I would be I think I would be interested even if it like you said even if it only had the enhancements. I totally agree with you there, but I think even if it didn't have the enhancements, it would still be a really interesting fun card. So um
Yep, totally.
yeah, I'd be very happy to see this show up in a future set, even if they don't like bring back enhancements en masse. Yeah, it'd be cool.
Mhm. Yeah, it looks like a great card. It
Hmm.
is a great card. I've seen it in action. It's really good.
Hmm.
All right, next up, City Gates is from Worlds Collide. This is also a really good card.
Hmm.
Artifact action: a friendly creature captures one. If it's a dinosaur, it captures two instead. A bit weaker in this set. A lot of these creatures, they're not dinosaurs.
Hmm.
Like Dark Centurion is not a dinosaur. Gladiodontus, Citizen Strix. So you're not getting as much mileage as you
Don't
used
forget
to, I guess.
don't forget Shadowsaurus though.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Is a
you can there's finally a dinosaur at a house. Yeah, you can capture
uh,
2 on the
I
Shadowsaurus.
kid. Yeah.
Um, yeah, it capture 2, it's pretty great.
Hmm.
Um, this card worked best with Senator Trix, which isn't
Yeah.
in set anymore,
Yep.
so I think it took a hit. It's still good. As far as rares go,
Yeah.
this is definitely a rare I like seeing.
Hmm. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, Worlds Collide not only had Shrix, but also still had Brachus is still around, but Brachus, Calipigian, and Imperial Forge, all of which pair really well with this. So yeah, I
Mhm,
definitely think took a little bit of a hit, just in terms of things it can synergize with, but it's still good.
mhm.
Uh,
Alright.
okay, Crystal Surge is a card I have mixed feelings about, but it's an action with a bonus amber. When you play it, you exalt each mutant creature, and I think in set this is interesting because sometimes you're going to be uh, playing against a lot of mutants. Playing against other sets, it's kind of a liability, um, unless you have like if you have Curiosaurus, uh, then maybe you just generate a lot of amber. But I like this significantly less than Vault's Blessing, which I think is maybe the best comparison because it gives you amber based on having mutant. This effectively gives punishes you for having mutants.
Mhm. Yeah, I like the flavor. This is an interesting
Hmm.
card. Um, but exalting is generally a negative thing.
Hmm.
And I guess this could work nicely with like Kizlar's Wrath or something. Uh, if you have Sanctum and you
Hmm.
don't have that many mutants, And it would be cool if the algorithm kind of favored, like, okay, if you have a Crystal Surge in your deck, like, you're gonna have fewer mutants or
Right.
something like that. Um, I
Pretty
I
sure it
think this card
doesn't.
no, it doesn't. I'm pretty sure this card should sorry. I think this card should be in Sanctum.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah.
thematically it makes more sense there.
Hmm.
But I do like the flavor on this card, um, and the art is cool. This is a card that I wish was better.
Yes.
It's not.
Yeah. It's funny. Yeah. The flavor text with the they regarding mutation as a curse is kind of like, well, but but Citizen Tricks is so good. What are you talking about? Uh, um. Okay. This card is returning. Diplomacy. A little bit of a dino pun there.
Mhm.
Is an action with a bonus amber. It has alpha, so it has to be the first thing you do in your step, probably step 3. When you play it, until the start of your next turn, each creature gains before fight exalt this creature. Um, and I think yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting rare. I haven't seen it. I've rarely seen it come up and matter much. Um, like I don't even think I've necessarily seen it be pitch worthy most of the time. Like it's usually just kind of like low impact.
Yeah, it's pretty whack. You can't fight on the turn you use it,
Hmm.
or at least you don't want to
Yeah.
for 1 amber. And, okay, I guess they can't fight either on the following turn. Uh, I don't know. But if they
I think it would
really
have been
you
okay
you
without
fight when you
alpha.
need to.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what the alpha makes sure you can't just, like, only use it for them, which is what
Right.
Fogify does. So they had to
Right.
make it, worse than the Fogify, which I think
Right.
was never considered to be really good anyway. I mean,
Hmm.
it's fine, and you could use it, but a lot of times they don't even wanna fight. In
Right.
this game, you don't want to fight that much,
Right.
and if you were gonna fight, an Exalt isn't gonna stop you. It'll
Right.
just make it a little bit more painful.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't like this card at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Very very fair. Let's move on.
Yeah. Sorry, okay, I will say
Oh.
that I really like the art, and I think the flavor text is hilarious. Um,
Hmm.
everyone looks up to the Saurians, and they're just these huge dinosaurs, and the
Yes.
name is funny. So I like everything about the card except for the effect.
Which the effects that's secondary. Yeah.
Alright, Form of Giants has a artifact with Amber Pip. At the start of your turn, the player who controls the most powerful creature gains 1. Okay. This card on TCO was, behaving differently. I noticed it started behaving
Really.
differently after a certain point. Originally, if there was a tie, uh, both players would get the Amber. So if, like, you and I both controlled the
Hmm.
strongest, the highest power creature, now it's prompting me to pick. And, the picking definitely made this card a lot better than it
Uh huh.
used to be.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know what the actual, like, ruling is, like, what it's supposed to do, uh,
Hmm.
but, I think the way that it's working now on TCO, now being you choose the creature, there's a tie, seems
Yeah.
intuitive to me. Um,
Yeah.
I I think this card's pretty good. I've been burned by playing it, like, aggressively,
Hmm.
and it's like Fangtooth Cavern. Like, you need to have a similar level of understanding of what the power
Hmm.
level of creatures in your deck versus their deck is.
Right.
And instead of dealing with creatures being destroyed, you're dealing with amber. In the best cases, this is getting you a lot of sneaky forges because you're at 5. the check happens at the start of your turn, regardless of who controls the most powerful creatures. So they never get the sneaky check. Um,
Right.
and you can potentially just go to 5 and they have to destroy your strongest. Sorry, if you go to 6, they have to destroy your strongest creature and get a stop.
Right.
And for the third key, a lot of the resources are sort of depleted because you've been starting to exploit your engine and just do everything you
Right.
can to get past the finish line. Um, and so having to deal with a big creature and remove 1 amber can put them in a really difficult
Hmm.
position. So I think this is a skill testing card. I think it'd be pretty good in the right kind of decks. Like if you have
Hmm.
shadows in your deck or something, or well, it just matters who the strongest creature is.
Right.
So if hopefully you have some those big Gladiodontus or something, or a
Yeah.
Pterodactyl.
Yeah. I played a game not super long ago where I was playing a deck with a lot of small creatures, and I think because of that, my opponent played this card, and I think if I were in their shoes, I would have too, but I managed to keep bouncing their creatures to pretty effectively to the point where I think 4 turns in a row I was the one getting the amber. Um, and yeah, it's there's a lot of potential for things to go wrong. Um, and yeah, it's ultimately like you said, you are the only one who gets the sneaky forge, but um, your opponent has a whole turn try to turn it to their advantage. Obviously, you don't want to shape your whole turn around it, but if you as the opponent can, okay, as I'm doing other stuff, I manage to make sure that I come out on top for an extra amber. It's I I think it would be pretty frustrating to be on the owner side of that, having played this and getting uh, by it.
Yeah, and in a similar way, like Fangtooth Cavern can be used
Hmm.
against you, so
Hmm.
it does warp the game.
The yeah the advantage that Fangtooth has though is that it fires at the end of your turn, so you get to be the proximate you know mover before it happens. Um, whereas this it's your opponent that gets to have kind of the final say. Um, yeah, and it
Um,
depends on whether they have effects that can.
yeah, I see your point. I think Form of Giants is more of a long-term
Hmm.
thing. Like Fangtooth has more immediate effect every turn.
Yeah.
Like destroy a creature is pretty big. Gaining an amber is something that definitely matters a lot, but is also fairly independent from the game state,
Hmm.
or at least the board state, at least.
Hmm.
So even if they like do a lot of jockeying to get an amber, like you can do some jockeying later. And
Yeah.
if you got 5 from Forum of Giants and they got 3, like
Yeah.
you came out ahead.
Yep. Yep.
And so it's not necessarily that bad if they get the first amber or two.
Sure. Yeah. Yep. It's fair. Okay.
Okay. So next up, we've got Good of the Many. Destroy each creature that does not share a trait with another creature in its controller's battle line. Um, cards kind of weird. Uh, yeah, it often what is scary in this game about boards are um, many creatures in the same house,
Hmm.
and so Good of the Many doesn't address that problem.
Yeah.
Probably because creatures in a house tend to share traits. Um, when I first saw this card, I thought it had to be the creature's neighbor need to share a trait. Um,
Ooh.
I think that could have been a cool twist because you have to. think about your positioning a bit more. I
Yeah.
think the way it is now, it's it can be pretty decent in the first few turns, and then uh, not so great. So as far as rares go, I think maybe this could have used an Amber Pip.
Mm.
So it's not my favorite rare.
Yeah, it's almost a little win more in terms of uh, board control. If you if you have board control already, then you can probably use it to create a situation where this finishes wiping the board while leaving yours intact. Um, but you were probably okay without it in that case. And if you don't have board control, then this is probably not playable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next is a uninteresting one. Grimlocust Ducks. It's an 11 powered dinosaur soldier with 2 armor. 11 is really on the high end. It's actually
Hmm.
more than one of the gigantic creatures. Um, it has taunt, and when you play it, you exalt it twice. That is the downside. Um, and if you have mitigating things, mitigating effects, then great. It's not such a downside. If you don't, then paying 2 amber um, is a is a pretty big down. I think it would be less of a huge downside if it was like if there weren't so many cards that could just straight out remove a creature. But you always have the possibility that you play this, uh, exalt it twice, and then have your opponent play like implosion or something and just erase it.
Yeah, and that happens pretty often.
Mhm.
So I mean, 11 power, he actually deals all 11 damage.
Yeah,
So that is pretty interesting.
yeah, and the only taunt in Sarian and Mass Mutation, so
Yep.
that's pretty big
I
too.
have a deck that has this guy Ducks and Senator Brackus, so you can
Ooh,
actually put the Amber on him to use.
yeah, that's pretty good.
Hmm.
Um, okay. Next up is High Priest Torvus, who is a 4 powered dinosaur priest with 1 armor. And Reap, you may exalt High Priest Torvus. If you do, after you resolve your next action card this turn, return it to your hand instead of placing it in your discard pile. Um, that's it's if you have actions to use this on, that's really good. Um, yeah, I think if you have an action card in your hand, it's probably the right thing to do to exalt to get to play it again.
Yeah, especially if it's a pretty powerful action. Um, I've never I've never used this card's effect actually,
Hmm.
and maybe I just needed a good deck that has High Priest Torvus. But I found
Mm-hmm.
like many of the actions, I don't know if I want to exalt to play them again.
Hmm.
Um,
Interesting.
yeah, so I don't know. I think this effect is super interesting, and it does give me the vibes of like Compsos Specs,
Yeah.
um, kind of like mystic, totally rule breaking style effects,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty cool. Um, I just don't think the actions in Saurian or are like super great. I mean, maybe if your opponent had a lot of amber
Uh-huh.
and you triggered the spoils of battle again or something
Right.
like that. Um, and like reap effects, they're really hard to fire. So I think this is an interesting rare, and I would love to
Yeah.
see it with a great combo. And I
Um,
think if you can get that combo off, is super interesting.
So the combo that springs to my mind, Donut's dad's deck Zambian of Max Marsh has this, and also a humble with 2 draw icon. So the combo is you play the humble, get an amber and 2 cards, and exhaust an enemy creature, and then reap with Torvus, exalt Torvus, play humble again, get another amber, draw 2 more cards, exhaust another creature. That is pretty for sure. Getting another amber, 2 draws, and exhaust an creature uh, is seems to me to be pretty consistently alt. Um, yeah, it's insane. But I think that's where the this becomes really good if you have a particular card with a lot of enhancements on it.
Yeah, I didn't consider that actually until you brought it up. That is a very good point.
Yeah, those enhancements just messing with the math.
Mhm. All right. Next up, we have Imperial Road. Artifact Omni. Play a Saurian creature. That creature enters play stunned. This is one of the few artifacts that has an Omni effect that doesn't pull itself up after you use it. Uh, and I think the flavor text pretty funny. Um, you apart from the road sanitation education, what have the Saurians ever done for us?
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, Brand.
the yeah, the stipulation the creature enters play stunned. I mean, that's all right in certain cases. So you weren't going to play the creature if you were off house. I mean, if you're in Saurian, you would not want to activate this card.
Hmm.
That wouldn't make sense. But if you were out of Saurian, you weren't going to play that creature this turn anyway, and you could potentially get a play effect. So you
Right.
can get your Faust on or Citizen Shrix, Thero Centurion. Uh, yeah, those are kind of the good play effects that are coming to mind
Yeah,
right away.
or constant effects like Brachus or In Worlds Collide like Comsos.
Mhm.
Those are also sometimes really nice to get on the board in a moment where
Yeah, and it filters a card out of your hand.
hmm.
So you weren't in Saurian, and now you have a Saurian creature on the board, um, and you're drawing one more card next turn. And okay, you have to pay a penalty because when you do go back into Saurian, like some of those creatures you were playing were stunned. Um, so it seems to be so there's like the card in Mars, Feeding Pit. Where you discard a creature from your hand
Yeah.
and you gain an amber, which is it's not even an omni though. So I think this is a little bit better
Hmm.
than that, just because you can use it every turn. If your deck doesn't have that many Saurian creatures, you can feel sad. Um,
Yeah.
but I think this card promotes efficiency pretty well. And I remember in an adaptive against Nick of Slots, he had a deck that had Val Jericho, Imperial Road, uh,
Oof.
and that kind of stuff. So he's playing like cards from 3 houses, uh,
Oof.
on a lot of turns. So that was pretty fun to use when I got my turn
Hmm.
with it.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Val's great, but I can see how pairing this with it uh, pretty good. You could even have a situation, I guess, where the Imperial Road helps you set up the Val to be in the center, right? Um,
Hmm.
help straightening out your battle line.
Yep. And next up, we have Legion's March. Play, you get Amber Pip. For the remainder of the turn, after you use a dinosaur creature, deal 1 to each non dinosaur creature. So just reading the effect, it doesn't seem that good
Uh huh.
to me. Um, I think this is supposed to be in the spirit of Spartasaur.
Uh huh.
Um, and given that a lot of creatures in this set aren't even dinosaurs, I think this card could have worked better in Worlds Collide. Um, I just don't see it having much impact.
I realized when prepping for doing this, I've never seen this card before today,
Oh, wow.
which I mean, I guess for me is kind of impressive. Uh,
Mhm.
it seems like such a cool idea, but yeah, probably wrong set. Hmm. Maybe we'll see it come back.
Yeah, I would rather see Spartosaur come back.
Yeah, yeah, that's very fair. Okay. Next is Nero Taurus, who is a six-powered dinosaur politician, and this is, I think this is the only creature I can think of that has a different fight and reap effect built into it, which is kind of cool. But they're mirrors, so the fight one says enemy creatures cannot reap during your opponent's next turn, and the reef one says enemy creatures cannot fight during your next turn. Um, and I think, well, the fight effect is better, right? Not letting your opponent's creature is stronger than not letting them fight. Um,
Depends on the situation.
yeah, yeah, very fair. Um, but yeah, it's a cool card. I don't have any like great decks with this in it, but uh, I would not be sad to see it. It just seems like a cool effect.
Yeah, I think it's pretty powerful. It has 6 power, so
Yeah.
it can get some things done, and I think if you have a Barrister Joya, you can get a nice lock going where you reap,
Uh huh.
and now they
Ooh.
can't fight or reap.
Ooh. Ooh.
They're under a
That's
permanent Skippy time hog.
ooh. That is yes. That does sound brutal. Hmm.
Yep. And, I wonder if you got this with, Legacy, uh, Livia the Elder.
Mm-hmm. Ooh.
Yeah,
Oh
you
wow.
you reap, and then you shut off fighting and reaping.
Yeah. Oh. That's that's really mean. I have to see if that exists. Uh
Yeah, you probably need to do some, like, Shadowsaurus stuff or something.
uh-huh.
Maybe you can use theirs.
Huh. Well, sounds sounds pretty cool. Yeah, cannot do a whole set of actions are it's a pretty strong effect.
Mhm.
Okay, next. Oh, I was even thinking too, you could if you had it, I would love to see this in a deck with like Ghost Hawk. So you could even fire it a couple turns in a row. But
Yeah. Or you could get this going with Smite or Grey Rider.
hmm yeah, lots of good options. Okay. Next up is Optio Gorkus, who is a three-powered dinosaur soldier with the armor and elusive. That's a lot of armor for a creature with elusive. And
Mhm.
it says that each of its neighbors gains destroyed. Move each amber on this creature to a neighboring Optio Gorkus. Um, so basically, it just delays your. Well, in most cases, it's just going to delay your opponent getting that amber back. Um, I could see there being some really weird interactions if you had like this and Curiosaurus, where you could like move one and then move the rest onto this or something like
Mhm.
that. But uh, I kind of feel like I think it's a great card. I think this should maybe even have been like an uncommon instead of a rare. Like I feel like it's a really cool effect, and I wish I saw it more.
Yeah, I mean, this could even be a common. I think
hmm
this serves a similar role to Perfecta Saludo. It's probably a bit more balanced. I
Yeah.
think it's a well-designed card.
hmm
I think Perfecta Saludo is better than this.
Yeah.
I still think it's pretty close though. 3 armor, elusive. That's not easy to deal with.
Right. Yeah, that's sticking around. Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, at least certainly through fighting and doing damage, it's going to be challenging to get rid of it. You're just going to need some, blow it up completely kind of effect.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Next up, we have Patronage Action. Move half the amber from a creature to your pool. Routing up, move the remaining amber from that creature to your opponent's pool. So, how does it work? Amber is on a creature and it's moved to your pool. So, if there's one amber on a creature and it's your creature, you have taken the amber that was your opponent's
Hmm.
and moved it to your pool. Now, let's say you have lots of amber on a creature, then it's sort of like cash out uh,
Uh-huh.
effect because it says, okay, we'll just split it.
Yeah.
Um, if the amber's all on the other side, I'll take half, you take half, we'll call it a day.
Hmm.
And same thing with the amber that I've captured from you.
Hmm.
You get half of it back. So if I captured 4 amber from you, and the net result of that is like I stole, um, let's just say I stole 2 and captured 2 essentially.
Hmm.
Um, that's pretty good.
Hmm.
Um, and on the other side, if you had 4 amber and I played the patronage, I'm basically conceding that I am not able to destroy this creature anytime soon, and so I'm just going to get the amber, half of the
Right.
amber back. Um, so it's pretty versatile
Hmm.
card.
Yeah. So I had a game recently against a Heart of the Forest deck. This is the first week of Code 8, and I lost, but part of why I lost was early on. I could have stopped him from forging Key 1, but because I knew it was a Heart of the Forest deck, I was actually hoping to just like push him into Key 2 before he could get anything out. Um,
Hmm.
which it sounds so weird, but that was my mentality. Um, and I realized afterward it didn't work out because he was able to really hard stall and do a combo turn where he forged these 2 and 3. But um, I realized if I had captured a bunch to hold him off of key 1, he would have he would have eventually got enough amber to get to key 1, and I could have used patronage to push him into key 2 later.
Mm.
Yeah, it was a big like I don't know if it would have worked out, but I was trying to theory craft, okay, what can I learn from this terrible defeat? Um, and I th- that's what I came up with was that if I had foreseen how the match was going to go, I maybe could have done some cool patronage shenanigans to force key 2 when but live and learn.
Yeah, I think Saurian House scares Heart of the Forest players a lot.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, of course, artifact control disrupts the whole combo. Exalting can disrupt it too.
Yeah.
It's just complicated to execute.
Yeah. Yep. Very much
All right.
so.
Next up, we have Saurus Rex. He's the leader. 6 power, fight Reap. If he's in the center of a battle line, you may exalt it. If you exalt it, search your deck for a Saurian card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Shuffle your deck. Yep.
It's good.
Grab the best Saurian card or the most appropriate one from your deck and bring it out. Yes, the effect is slow. does have an exalt, and you're not necessarily getting those really whoa Saurian cards in Mass Mutation that you tended to see
Right.
more often in Worlds Collide. So as far as leaders go, he's okay.
Hmm.
Um, I don't often use this to great effect. Maybe near the end of the game, you can get that great card that just closes things out. Um, but I guess if you can pull one of your artifacts, like an Amphora or Curiosaurus or something early, like that's pretty nice.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard when you compare to um like Val, for example. I think Val's I best of the, you know, if you get her in the center of the battle line, it doesn't matter what cards you have in your hand. It almost doesn't matter. 99% of cards you're gonna be happy to have. Um, if you have Zenzi in the middle and you're drawing to 8, you're gonna be happy. No matter what else is in your deck. Whereas with Saurus Rex, for it to be valuable, you kind of have to have like some really high impact cards that are really timing sensitive. Um,
Mhm.
and so and he's a rare, so kind of have to have this big confluence. Um, so yeah, I think it's it has a high potential to be a really awesome effect, but probably the average impact of it is not very high.
Yeah, and I think in Worlds Collide, he's doing more than he's doing
Yeah,
in Mass Mutation.
sure. For sure. Okay. Next up is sorry about that. Um, Another excellent pun. It's an action. It has play destroy a creature. Its controller gains an amber. I think this might be better because this was in Worlds Collide, right? Um, but I think it's better here because you have a, a lot more good destroyed. I think you have a lot more good destroyed effects in mass mutation just because of the hybrid cards. Um, and so I think suddenly you have a a lot more creatures that can, yeah, destroy, get a cool effect, get an amber. Um, and if your opponent has a really nasty creature that you need to deal with, then it might be worth giving you.
Yeah, I like the versatility here. I mean, destroy any creature is pretty useful, and gaining one, yes, near the end of the game that can put them over the edge for the third key, and it could be awkward. Um, I usually like playing with this card.
I think, yeah, there's not a lot of cards in the game that just say destroy a single creature that you pick.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw Whale of the Damned, like
Hmm.
nice,
Hmm.
almost an unconditional destroy.
Right. Certainly
Uh,
outside of mass mutation, it becomes, yeah, almost unconditional.
yep.
Uh,
I remember when I first saw Draining Touch, I was really impressed. I was like, "This card
hmm.
looks great." Destroy a creature with no amber. How often do creatures have amber on them? Um,
and
yeah.
then you see Worlds Collide Sarian in action, and oh,
Yep.
when I need this to count, it doesn't. Yeah, but it is. I mean, uh, what Mark's deck has 4 of those and constantly destroying boards. It's really good.
Mhm.
Um, okay. Next up is Skilla, who's a 7 power beast and has the text: each enemy creature gains reap. Deal 4 to this creature. Um, that's a I, I think it's a really nice effect. stuff that destroys or stuns or whatever enemy creatures after they reap runs the risk of like, okay, well, if they just push themselves up into check for key 3, then it doesn't matter. But um, in the early and mid game, this is really a really powerful effect.
Yes. And this creature has 7 power, and there's no, it only deals 4 damage, whatever. Like, this is a tough one to get rid of. Barrister Joya, you
Mm-hmm.
can fight it. You can toss a few creatures into her. Um, this card, I mean, yes, you can also toss a few creatures, but we'll see what the counterpart does,
Yeah.
cause even more problems.
Yep.
Um, and 7, I
Yeah.
mean,
That's
now
big.
your 6 power creatures you thought could live against Barrister Joya are not surviving against this.
Yep. Yeah. Good.
Mhm. Alright, speaking of real good, we have Senator Brackus, 4 power, dinosaur, politician. You may spend amber on friendly creatures as if it were in your pool. Fight, reap, exalt, Senator Brackus. I do think his stock has gone down a little bit,
Uh huh.
um, because of the lack of taunt and protection
Yes.
options
Yep.
in Saurian. The warding is much less, the taunting is much less. So Senator Brackus just seems more balanced than it was. It's still really, really good. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I would just say, I'll just add to that. I think uh, mass mutation Brachus is witch level, right? Like you have to purge the witch. But
Mhm.
yeah, Worlds Collide Brachus was like it was like if Hunting Witch was an 8 power creature or something, you'd be like, what? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
But because obviously you have to have the synergy, but yeah, because of the protection, there were just so many situations where you could make Brachus almost impossible to remove. And uh, yeah, the mass mutation version just it's still super good. It's just less offensive.
Yeah, yeah. Alright, next up, so Salt, Amber Pip, Alpha, play until the start of your next turn, creatures cannot read. So Diplomacy and So Salt are similar. Um,
Yes.
this one just it's a hard stop to reaping, rather than discouraging it through exalting them or something like
Hmm.
that. Um, I think Soul Assault is okay. I like it a lot more in Diplomacy. Turning off reaping can be very helpful, in slowing the game down, particularly in Worlds Collide and Mass Mutation. And if you're playing your first Saurian turn and you play So Salt, um, you are achieving a lot there.
Uh-huh.
And you could also, let's say you do have Saurian creatures, you sow salt. Maybe it's you're planning to fight anyway, and you can get some fights on, or you can decide that okay, I was going to reap for 2, but they were going to reap for 5,
Right.
so this was a fair trade as I try to set up more of a response.
Hmm. Yeah, and it oftentimes with Sarian, your game plan, many Sarian game plans involve stalling to get the right of a combo in place. So yeah, I guess it can be good in that sense. Um, I'd probably almost always rather have opposition research than this,
Mm,
because it only applies to the opponent. Um, but yeah, in the right moment, this can save you the game for sure.
yeah. So if you have more than one creature, yeah, you do come out behind. Because if you had just one, then I guess it would be equivalent.
Yeah.
to opposition research, although they opposition research also has the damage pip.
Hmm.
So um, yeah, it probably worse more than it's better
Hmm.
compared to that card.
Hmm.
But this being the version Saurian, I think it's okay.
Hmm. Yeah, and Saurians are probably happier going ahead and fighting instead of reaping much of the time. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, okay. Uh, Tertiate is an action with a bonus amber. When you play it, you destroy 1/3 of all enemy creatures and 1/3 of all friendly creatures, and each time you're rounding up. Um, so another one I've seen people occasionally get a little stuck on the math, but you round up. Uh, but yeah, I think this is a really good, interesting one, and again, as a mirror effect here, the power is that you're picking which third of your creatures get destroyed and which you're picking your creatures that have the destroyed effects and their creatures that have reap effects, right? Or
Hmm.
constant
Hmm.
effects. And that could be pretty good.
You got it.
Um, cool. And then the next one is uh, the counterpart to Skilla, and it's Charybdis, who's a 7 power beast that says each enemy creature gains before fight lose 1 amber. Um, and I was thrilled when I saw the cards, the 2 cards, partially just like because I growing up reading uh story of Odysseus trying to get between Scylla and Charybdis, who are Greek mythical creatures. Um, I was just really excited to see that story represented, and I think
Hmm.
they did. I think they did a great job, right? Like, okay, you if you reap, this terrible thing will happen to you, but if you fight, this terrible thing will happen to you, and how do you get out of this terrible situation? Um, and then of course because Charybdis is special rarity, it's just anytime you get Skilla, you automatically get Charybdis. So and if you get them both on the
Hmm.
board together, it's uh, pretty crushing.
Yeah, I think the pair is devastating. Yeah, both have 7 power. They both, uh, well, Charybdis is doing most of the protection of the situation because of
Hmm.
the before fight lose one. So they're doing amber control in like different ways. One is preventing you from generating, the other one is making you lose it. So
Hmm.
it is a nightmare when both of those are on the field against you. I also noticed that it says each enemy creatures gains before
Oh,
fight lose one. And is that typo on the actual card? I'll have to go
oh,
look at my decks.
wow, that is a good question. Um, yeah, I might look for one while you're reading the next card.
Okay. All right. Lycosaurus. 5 power mutant dinosaur skirmish and play. You may exalt Lycosaurus if you do deal 3 to a creature. I like the mutation. It's probably my third favorite one behind Fiend and then Dino and then Lyco. And probably after that, Xeno.
Yeah.
Uh, then maybe Sacro, and then Bot I would put near the bottom. And the worst is Thief, in my opinion.
Hmm.
The Bot one I just never found that interesting. I think in multiples it can be pretty good. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah. There's
Lycosaurus.
yeah. Well, I was just gonna say about the thief. The only the only time where that's ever like really good, I think, on is like techno, because if you have a cool reap effect, um, then the elusive maybe helps protect it. But I'd probably in that case rather have like I might even rather have the armor or or the destroyed effect. But yeah. Oh, and by the way, yes, the typo is on Charybdis for real on the card. Enemy creatures.
Whoops.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
Stuff
I think
happens.
we need a ruling on that one. What is it, creatures?
I think we're probably good. Uh,
Yeah, so I like skirmish. I think this is a big body. It's good for fighting, obviously. So this is your muscle.
hmm
Okay.
totally.
Next up, Monuments of Faust. Action, it's artifact. Action ability. Keys cost +1 during your opponent's next turn. If Faust is in your discard pile, keys cost +2. It's all right. I mean,
Yeah.
it invites the clear comparison to Lash of Broken Dreams, which is
Right.
just 3 unconditional.
Right.
So this is definitely a worse effect.
Yep.
That said, it's still it's still good. And
Yeah.
if you have this card in your deck, that means you have Faust in your deck. So you're getting some other ways to increase the key cost. And this could just give you that 1 or 2 more that you need to take your opponent off key.
hmm Yeah. Yeah. I think. Yeah. It's so hard not to compare to Lash. But yeah, increasing your opponent's key cost by 2 is a good effect, right? That's a solid effect. Um, it's just not Lash.
Yeah, and one thing about this is, like, Saurian creatures, because they tend to be stickier, like, you may be in the Saurian house more often as the
Uh
game is
huh.
going on compared to this.
Hmm.
But then some of the nice disc decks have Arise, many creatures with good effects, so, yeah.
Yep. Um. Okay. Next, we have another monument, the monument to Octavia. This is an artifact. It's a location, and it says action. A friendly creature captures one. If Octavia is in your discard pile, that creature captures two instead. Um, and so yeah, this is really comparable, I think, to City Gates. Um, very similar, conditional effect. And I think it's worth noting if you have this and Monument to Ludo, um, you kind of have a every time you go if those creatures are in your discard, every time you go Sarian, you can erase two amber. But then you have to think, okay, well, do I get both cards out? Could I have gotten better cards that would just help me win before they got that amber? But still, interesting effects for dragging the game out.
Yep, this is my second favorite monument.
Hmm. Um, I have more than once just discarded Octavia from hand so that I could use this to capture two
Yeah, that's smart.
in those
This
situations where you
Octavia, no play effect.
know. And then the next monument is to Primus. This is an artifact, a location. Action, move one amber from a friendly creature to another friendly creature. If Consul Primus is in your discard pile, move one amber from a creature to another instead. Um, and I, yeah, I like this. If you get, well, the effect without Primus in the discard pile is not so nice. Um, I don't, yeah, that really doesn't matter to me very much. But
Mhm.
if if you have it out and you like have Primus on the board, then I think your opponent kind of might even think, ugh, why even mess with the Primus? Like if it goes to the discard pile, they'll just be able to do that effect anyway. So I'll prioritize something else.
Mhm. Yeah, that is an interesting take on the viability of killing the Primus.
Hmm.
I mean, whether it's the yeah, so I guess you have the monument. They're sort of out of luck, but the effect isn't that powerful.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you could have had two Chant of Hubrises instead of Primus and Monument. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, Monument to Strix. So this is my favorite monument.
Hmm.
You may spend amber on Monument to Strix if it were in your pool. Action: move one amber from your pool to Monument to Strix. If Citizen Strix is in your discard pile, move one amber from any player's pool to Monument to Strix instead.
Yeah.
This is great. You steal amber and place it on the artifact, which they may not have a way to get back ever. And it's totally safe. It's banked. Um, so it's like safe place in Pocket Universe, except you can populate it with the amber your opponent made.
Yeah. Yeah. That's real good.
Yeah. So yeah, without the second part, I mean, it's just another. It's Pocket Universe.
Hmm.
That I think the second part makes it really great. That you can once they get rid of Citizen Tricks, which is something they want to do because that card can go off.
Hmm.
They now have to deal with the monument. So I
Well.
think this fits the monument theme very well, where
Hmm.
you're sort of haunted from the grave by
Hmm.
Strix.
Yeah. I think. Yeah. Comparing this to like Safe Place and Pocket Universe, those if you see that your opponent has artifact destruction, you're probably going to choose not to action them as opponent blow up the artifact and you lose your amber. Um, but yeah, with Monument to Tricks, it's like, well, it's my opponent's amber, so who,
Right.
who cares? Yeah, it's great.
Mhm. Yeah. And you can if you have Strix and multiples, I think there just needs to be any of the Strixes are in the discard for this to
Yeah,
trigger.
yeah, that is true. And you're never sad to see multiple Strixes, so
Yep.
uh, three Strixes and one of these would be pretty fantastic.
Totally. Okay. Next up, we have Sacrosaurus. Mutant Dinosaurs, 6 power, 2 armor. You may exalt Sacrosaurus if you do deal 3 to a creature. There's just more muscle.
Yeah.
Probably mm, would I want 2 Lycosaurus or 1 Sacro, 1 Lyco?
Hmm.
Sometimes you do need 6
Yeah.
just to take something out.
Yep.
So I would say maybe I would want the variety there. What
Uh-huh.
about you?
Yeah, no, I think that's true. They're like, um, probably if I could just have one or the other, I'd rather have the. Actually, if I could only have one or the other, I might rather have this. Having both is nice, but
Hmm.
they definitely are good in different situations.
Hmm.
Um, the next one is also I think really good. Technosaurus, 5 power mutant dinosaur, has the play deal damage effect if you exalt, and then reap discard a card from your hand if you do draw a card. Um, that is some of the only efficiency in Sarian, and uh, it's one of the few um, of the techno creatures that's so big that's 5 power. So it adds survivability to what I think is a pretty good effect. And then having the play effect is actually nice. So yeah, I like
Yep.
this one.
Yeah, same here. I think getting that efficiency in the Saurian house is nice. It's one of the cases where I'm a bit warmer on the bot effect
Huh,
than I usually am.
huh,
Just because establishing Saurian artifacts and creatures early,
uh-huh,
like they're sticky.
right. Huh, yeah. And then the next one is Umbrasaurus. This is probably the worst one. It's a 4 power mutant dinosaur with elusive, and then it has that play effect as well. And I mean, it's just it's okay, but it's not have a huge game of impact.
Yeah, I I don't think much of it. All right, Xenosaurus. So as the Dino play effect and then fight, look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Put one in your hand and one on the bottom of your deck. So this fight effect is extremely powerful.
Uh huh.
However, it is a fight effect and just difficult to trigger. I think pretty much you need the armor. So like Xeno Knight
Uh
or
huh.
Xeno Beast. Uh, Xenosaurus, I think could trigger once,
Yeah.
maybe twice if you're lucky. Um, and then you're losing that exalted amber that you had by fighting. So seems a bit of an anti synergy to me.
Yeah. It's better. Yeah, I agree. The combining it with skirmish or armor is the best, but putting on a big body is the next best. And occasionally in Sarian, you're going to be able to like drop wards on things, so you might get a few uses.
Hmm. All right, and then the last card. I guess I'll do the last two.
Yeah.
Deus 20 power mutant, giant creature. Play. Capture all of your opponent's amber. Deal 5 to an enemy creature. Fight Reap. Move 1 amber from Deus. So common supply. Deal 2 to each enemy creature. This can be a menace. 20 power. It deals 20 damage when it's fighting. No softening
Yeah.
um,
It
at
doesn't come
all.
in stunned or nothing.
Yeah, it's just ready to go and it really wreak havoc. Like
Uh,
five damage to a creature on play. Like
yep.
it'll that's pretty much a targeted removal.
Uh-huh.
And then dealing 2 to each enemy creature, I mean, you're wiping out a lot of the smaller creatures with good effects by reaping and deleting amber from it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you get this with Ancient Power or Ludo, and yeah, you really will be wreaking havoc on your opponent.
Um, Grobnar 89 has a deck with two of these, and I remember playing against it, and it came out the first time and it was annoying. Uh, came out a second time, it was annoying, and then it came out a third time, and he hadn't flipped his deck, and I was trying to piece together what had happened, and it was I think the first time he had it's one copy of it's coming and a half, so he got the other. Oh no, I think the first time he just had it, so he played it from hand. The second time he had one half and it's coming, and so he pulled the missing half from the discard pile, and then
Mhm.
it died, and then he got the other half and the other it's coming, and was able to pull the other half from the discard pile, and so he got 3 plays in one pass of the deck of a card that says capture all your member, and
Yeah,
like
and
it
it's a
was
huge
exhausting.
body.
Yeah.
Yep. You just think you've made progress, and then nope. And I think that deck also has sins and
Yes.
Forge Compiler, and it is it's quite a force.
Not okay. Yeah, it's really good. Um,
Mhm.
how do you rank this compared to the other gigantics?
Like Ultra Graviton or Niflcog.
Yeah.
Mm, this, I think this is the strongest one.
Yeah.
It just does something so impactful to the game state, like right away.
Yeah.
Archiving top 5 cards of your deck, like yes, it's a lot of efficiency and it's nice. Um, this card sort of just skips the step,
Right.
like or intermediate step. You archive cards and play cards to advance Amber and eventually forge keys. Like this just takes all the opponent's amber and puts it on a creature that is really difficult
Yeah.
to remove, and will become a big problem um, if the you can go into Saurian over and over, and you're just wrecking their board.
Yep. Yeah, it's real good. And does his deck have Dominator Bobble? I don't remember that for sure, but I've seen this index with Dominator Bobble, Dominator Bobble, Essence Scale, things like that, and it can um get real.
Yes,
Oh no,
it
he
can get terrible. I
yeah.
don't recall whether his deck has Dominator Bubble.
I don't think it does. I think oh no, I collared his Ducilius. That's what happened.
Yeah,
Which
I've done that before too.
that yeah, I collared it and I had Dominator Bubble and it was a very silly. It didn't work out for me, but it was a fun game.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah, and then, he has a Gluttony in that deck,
yeah.
which works well with this, has
Too
Envy.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a special deck.
Yeah. Yep. Um.
Backflash.
Yeah. That's a top contender. Sure. Um. Cool. Okay. Well. Any final thoughts about Mass Mutation? Sorry, and I kept you super long, but thanks for sticking around for the ride.
Yeah, it was fun.
Any final tips or notes?
I think the Saurian house is pretty fun. You should try it out. It's competitive in this set.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as much as, like, the Worlds Collide Saurian was so, evidently strong.
Yeah.
This, I think, takes a little bit more getting used to. There's a lot of powerful combos. I think it's a strong house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. You have to get the right puzzle pieces in place, but if you can click them in place, then it's pretty bonkers.
Mhm.
Um, cool. All right. Well, thanks again so much, Julian, for joining me, and for anybody watching this, thanks for uh, going on the ride with us. And um, we're yeah, we've just been very having a good time with Mass Mutation, and then we're also very excited for Dark Tidings to come out soon and see what new Sarian monsters are coming our way. So um, hopefully you'll stick with it, and before too long we'll have an opportunity to get together and forge some keys.
Yep. That'd be great.